Imagine you are standing in the middle of a grocery store. You walk past the dairy aisle every single week: cow milk, goat milk, oat milk, almond milk. You grab whatever you usually grab and you move on. But here is a question that almost nobody ever thinks to ask: why those animals? Why not a lion? Why not a wolf? Why not a tiger? These animals make milk too. Every single mammal on Earth produces milk for its young. So why have humans only ever farmed a tiny handful of them? And why does the idea of drinking predator milk feel so deeply, instinctively wrong? Most people assume the answer is obvious: dangerous animals, hard to keep, not worth the risk. But that is not quite right. The real answer goes much deeper than danger. It reaches into the chemistry of the milk itself, into the evolutionary arms race between predator and prey, into what your body actually needs, and into a survival decision your ancestors made tens of thousands of years ago. That is still shaping what you put in your body today. Stay with this until the end, because the last part will change how you think about the food on your table. Let us start with what milk actually is, because most people have never really thought about it. Milk is not just food. It is a biological transmission, a mother's body breaking down her own tissues to build another life. Every species on Earth produces milk tuned precisely to the needs of its own young. It is like a custom software package written specifically for one operating system. Human milk and whale milk and rat milk are not the same product. They are completely different biochemical recipes, and that matters enormously. When scientists look at the milk of large predators, something immediately stands out. The fat content is staggering. Lion milk is approximately 12% fat. Wolf milk hovers around a similar level. Compare that to cow milk, which sits at around 3 to 4% fat. Human milk is even lower, around 3 to 5%. So predator milk is not just different, it is radically, almost incomprehensibly richer. And that is where the first problem begins. Your digestive system is not built for that. Think about what happens when you eat a very heavy, very fatty meal. You feel it. Your stomach labors. Your body works hard to process it. Now imagine that every single meal you ate had that fat density. Every drink, every day. For many adults, the gut simply cannot process that volume of fat efficiently. It would cause serious digestive stress. But fat content is only the beginning. Predator milk is also extraordinarily high in protein. This makes evolutionary sense. A lion cub needs to grow into an apex predator as fast as biologically possible. It needs dense muscle tissue, it needs bone mass. It needs to go from helpless newborn to functional hunter in a matter of months. So the milk is engineered for explosive growth. The protein ratios in lion milk are almost incomparable to the milk humans have consumed for thousands of years. And here is the thing about protein. Too much of it does not just pass through you harmlessly. High protein loads require your kidneys to work significantly harder to process the waste products. For a human adult drinking predator milk regularly, this would place enormous strain on the renal system over time. Scientists who have studied the milk compositions of large carnivores use terms like extreme. It is not a mild difference. It is a completely different category of biological fuel. Now here is where it gets even stranger. The problem is not just what is in predator milk, it is what is not in it. Cows are prey animals. Goats are prey animals. Sheep, water buffalo, yaks, all prey. And prey animals have something predators do not need in nearly the same quantity: lactose. Lactose is the sugar that makes milk sweet and gives it its particular energy profile. Prey animal milk tends to be higher in this carbohydrate, and carbohydrates are exactly what human metabolisms evolved to run on. We are omnivores. Our bodies are calibrated for a mix of fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Predator milk skews so heavily toward fat and protein that it throws that balance completely off. You would be drinking a substance that your body has essentially no evolutionary template for processing at scale. But there is still another layer, and this is the one that most people never consider. Even if you somehow solved all of the nutritional incompatibility, even if you managed the fat, managed the protein, managed the missing carbohydrates, you would still face a problem you absolutely cannot engineer around: the animal itself. Think about what it actually means to milk a predator. Imagine for a moment that you are a farmer 10,000 years ago. You domesticated cattle because cattle are prey animals. Prey animals have nervous systems tuned for herd behavior, for following, for tolerating proximity to large creatures, for accepting handling. That tolerance did not happen overnight. It took generations of selective breeding, thousands of years of humans choosing the calmest, most docile individuals to reproduce, building a relationship between species slowly over an enormous span of time. Now try to do that with a lion. A lion does not have a prey animal nervous system. A lion has a predator's mind. Apex predators are territorial, solitary or semi-solitary, deeply suspicious of intrusion, wired by evolution to perceive approaching creatures as either competitors or threats. There is no evolutionary pathway by which a lion tolerates a human crouching beneath it twice a day to extract milk. That wiring simply does not exist. Researchers who study animal domestication point to something called the domestication syndrome, a cluster of traits that tend to appear in animals that can be successfully domesticated. Reduced fear response, smaller adrenal glands, higher tolerance for novelty, prolonged juvenile behavior. Prey animals often have these traits naturally to some degree. It is part of how herds survive. Individuals who panic and flee together live longer than individuals who charge. Predators evolved the opposite strategy. So even if predator milk was nutritionally compatible with your body, even if you desperately wanted it, the animal would not cooperate, and no amount of training changes deep evolutionary architecture. This is actually one of the most fascinating lessons in all of human history. Of the roughly 5,000 species of mammals on Earth, only 14 have ever been successfully domesticated. 14. And almost none of them are predators. The ones humans domesticated for milk specifically: cattle, goats, sheep, camels, yaks, water buffalo, reindeer, horses. Every single one of them is an herbivore or close to it. Every single one of them has a social structure that tolerates human presence. This was not an accident. This was a filter, an invisible selection process that ran for thousands of years. And your ancestors, without any knowledge of biology or evolutionary theory, identified the right animals instinctively, by trial, by loss, by watching which animals could live alongside humans, and which ones destroyed the people who tried to keep them. Now, here is something that genuinely surprises most people when they hear it. Humans have actually tried. In various times and places throughout history, people attempted to work with predators in a farming context. Big cats were kept by royalty and nobility across many ancient cultures. Lions in Egypt, cheetahs in India, tigers across parts of Asia. Some of these animals lived in close quarters with humans for years, but in virtually every recorded case, the relationship worked only with extraordinary effort and constant risk. And critically, none of it produced a lasting food source. No predator was ever successfully integrated into a dairy system. Because you can sometimes habituate an individual animal, you cannot domesticate a species in a single generation. Domestication is not training. It is genetics. It is the slow reshaping of an entire species over hundreds of generations, and no predator species has ever passed through that reshaping process. But step even further back, because there is one more angle to this that almost nobody talks about. What would predator milk actually taste like? The flavor of milk is shaped by the animal's diet. Goat milk tastes different from cow milk, partly because goats eat different plants. Their digestive process transfers aromatic compounds into the milk. A carnivore's diet is flesh, organs, blood, fat, and protein from animal sources. The aromatic compounds transferred into predator milk through that diet would be unlike anything you have ever tasted. Researchers who study exotic animal biology have noted that the milk of carnivorous species carries distinct olfactory and taste profiles shaped entirely by meat-based diets. The word used in scientific contexts is often pungent. It would not taste like anything on that grocery store shelf, not even close. It might be the most alien food a human being could try to consume. And now you are standing back in that grocery store, looking at that dairy aisle. And the question is no longer, why can't we drink predator milk? The question is something much more personal. Every choice on that shelf, every carton, every bottle represents an invisible inheritance. a 10,000-year relationship between your species and a handful of carefully chosen animals. Your ancestors did not choose the cow arbitrarily. They chose it through a process of trial and survival and catastrophic failure. They tried things that did not work. Some of those experiments probably ended in death. And what survived that process? What passed down the generations? What eventually became so ordinary you walk past it without a second thought? Is a product of extraordinary specificity. The milk you drink was selected for you before you were born, before your parents were born, before anyone alive today drew a first breath. The compatibility is not an accident. It is the result of an evolutionary handshake between two species that took millennia to complete. And somewhere on the other side of that handshake, the lion watches from the dark, producing milk for its cubs. Milk that is perfect for a lion, and completely alien to you. Not because of anything you chose, but because of everything your ancestors survived.